Hello everyone, Storming Thundered here, and welcome to another League Racing video. Today we're racing at Las Vegas on the F125 game, and I now finally have a permanent seat at Red Bull for the rest of Season 9 of the League of South Africa. So this is effectively a sprint weekend here at Las Vegas. We're doing a one-shot quali, which will set the grid for a 9-lap sprint race, and the results of that sprint race will set the grid for the main race. Now, before we started the one-shot quali, I saw in the weather forecast that it looked like it was going to be rain for the entirety of the sprint race. So in preparation for that, I increased my wing levels by about 15 clicks each. I think I was running 17 on the front and 15 on the rear. Now, that does end up hurting me in qualifying. Although the higher wing levels will theoretically gain me more time in the corners, I haven't practiced with such high wing levels, so I was not extracting anywhere near the amount of pace as I could have in each of the braking zones. Corners where I could have carried a lot more speed throughout, and also corner exits where I could have been a lot more aggressive getting on the throttle. So coming to the end of the lap, towards the extremely tricky turn 14, 15 and 16 corner complex. I'm not entirely sure what you call that corner complex. For me it's a chicane, but it's a bit more than a chicane. It's like a chicane and a half. But either way, we are able to get a decent exit out of the corner. We're looking on for around P7 at the moment with this flying lap. Coming across the line, draining our battery down to perfection, and we set a lap time of a 1 minute 31.9, and that does indeed secure P7 for us on the grid. So now we're going to go to the start of the sprint race, which is wet, intermediate conditions. Let's go to the 5 red lights. So we do have a decent start. The Sauber Spinakopf did make contact with our rear, but didn't cost us anything. It only gave him damage. We're only running low damage, I believe, in this series, so you can't get damage to any part of the car other than the front wing. But other than that, I was feeling very confident on these intermediate tires at this stage of the race. Definitely the higher wings were allowing me to carry more speed into each corner and brake a bit later. But unfortunately, it doesn't look like anyone else really raised their wings by quite as much at least. So I'm losing a lot of time down the straights, and it's going to prove to be very difficult to overtake from now on. So this stage I was looking at getting my head down, setting in consistent laps and just feeling out the conditions and hope for a mistake from the drivers in front.
I'll be running on a dry track soon. Back to dry shortly.
Now that was a bit alarming to me at the time. If the track gets any drier, the benefits from these higher wings are going to get less and less. And going into lap 4, I've already got France right up behind me. He started near the back of the grid. He's already caught up to us at this stage of the race. I was just thinking, oh great, he's probably just going to blast past. But I managed to get a good exit out of turn 4, and France just isn't quite able to get close enough for a move into turn 5. But if you notice, my EOS, it is very low. Because of these higher wings, I am struggling to manage that EOS and keep a high enough battery charge. Now thankfully, up in front, it seems that several of the drivers are starting to fight each other, and because of that, they are slowing each other up a bit. And that has allowed me to catch back up again, and this is going to help me tremendously in my fight with France, because now I'll have a slipstream, which will give me greater top speeds and also allow me to manage my EOS a bit better. Going into turn 12, France is very close behind, but he does make a mistake, hits the wall. It's not going to damage his car, but it does cause him to have a worse exit. Coming to the end of lap 5, you may have noticed it has stopped raining and the track is now starting to dry. Now at this stage, the race engineer Mark was starting to tell other drivers that slicks are now faster than intermediates, so because of that, France behind dives into the pits to put on a set of soft tyres. I wasn't quite aware of how dry the track was getting, and so because of that I ended up staying out, but it's more by accident rather than by choice. At this point I've caught right up to the back of Lamb Oil. I'm going to start putting pressure on him, shaping up for a move into turn 5, but just not quite able to pull it off. So in terms of strategy at this point, I've committed to staying out in these intermediates. There aren't enough laps left at the end to make up for the pit stop time loss. So we'll just have to see how these intermediates fare as the track gets even drier. Now at this point of the race I started to have a pace advantage over the cars in front. So now I'm looking for any opportunity to overtake Jims. Unfortunately, again, my lack of straight line speed hurting me. But what I didn't know is that Jims actually had very severe front wing damage. He had lost both front wing end plates, and because of that he's going to be braking a bit earlier than me. So into the heavy braking zone of turn 14, I just end up braking way too late, nearly lock the rears, have to move for the inside, hop over the inside curb, push James a bit wide. There's unfortunate contact, so looking at it again from the front on view, as you can see, just nothing much more I could do. Once I hit the brakes, I was either going to the back of him or diving up the inside. I dived up the inside, went onto the inside curb, and unfortunately with that inside curb, once you get on it, it just skates you wide. The car bottoms out, there's not much more you can do. I did try and give him as much room as I could on the corner exit, but that didn't stop us from having contact. So now going into the final lap, I'm now having to do some fuel saving because I'd underfueled. With the wet weather, generally you burn less fuel. However, with the higher wings, I think I was actually burning slightly more fuel, so I had to do quite a bit of lift and coast in the final 2 laps. Thankfully, James with his damage wasn't able to really challenge me. However, it did also mean I wasn't able to potentially look at getting P3. So we do manage to save enough fuel and cross the line in P4, a good solid result for the sprint race. And here are the results, and now we're going to have some chaos. Enjoy. And with that out of the way, we're now ready to start the actual main race. And this time it looks to be bone dry. And as such, we'll be starting on the mediums. So going on to the Las Vegas Strip at the end of lap 1. As you saw in the beginning, I was going side by side with Japes, but unable to make the move stick. Now behind, Gems is going to come under attack from France, but so far it looks like I'll be safe for now. But into turn 14, France is going to get Gems, gets the move done before the braking zone, and now out of the turn 14, 15 and 16 complex, I'm now going to be under pressure from France behind. I'm burning my EOS, using up my battery, trying to keep him behind. I take a middle of the road defensive line. France attempts to go around the outside, but ends up going deep himself and is unable to make the move stick either. But then into the next turn of turn 3 and 4, France does stick his nose up the inside, but is unable to get a good enough exit to challenge me down into T5. Now in terms of strategy, this race was looking to be a very simple one stop, with pit stops happening anywhere after lap 10. The medium tyres could last quite a long time and the hards even longer, although the hard tyres did not seem to have such a big advantage at this track over the medium tyres compared to last week at Kota. So towards the end of lap 2 into turn 14, Japes and Biggie Man are going to go side by side into turn 14. It's going to compromise Japes' run. I end up hitting the wall slightly twice, but I am still able to get a good enough run onto Japes, burning my EOS, putting alongside, now harvesting and boxing France in behind us. We're going to go side by side into turn 1. Japes is going to attempt to hang around the outside, but he does have damage to his front wing from lap 1. Japes and France are going to go side by side behind us as we are able to complete the move. France is going to get held up slightly, and we are now going to be able to set our sights on Boogeyman up in front. So there we go, we are now up into P2. Boogeyman behind is going to have a swapper on the exit of turn 15, I suppose, which is now going to allow France to get around on him, looking at them from our car. They're going side by side into the final turn, getting very close to each other into turn 1. France is going to have the inside, he's going to dive up the inside. Boogeyman is going to be trying to hang around the outside, and he's going to do so semi-successfully, but France just has too much speed and is ahead for the majority of turn 4. And France was able to hold the position all the way down into turn 5 as well. And unfortunately, France is going to have us on the strip with DRS. He's just going to have too much of a speed. We won't be able to defend, so we have to let him go through on this occasion. And now I'm going to see if I can stick with him, but unfortunately, I do end up cutting the curb here at turn 14 and get a track limits warning for that. So now, 2 laps later, we've caught straight back up to the back of France, and we should be able to get him on this next straight. Now unfortunately, I wasn't able to build a big enough gap to France to prevent him from overtaking me again, as we have a big front lockup into turn 12. Really does hurt us. I was pushing as hard as I could to build a big enough gap to hopefully keep France behind, but he's now just too close. He's going to fly past again. At this point in the race, I'm still hoping that I'll be able to stick with them and try again in the future. But unfortunately, it just doesn't quite work out that way. So skipping a few laps into the future, we are now on lap 10. And as you can see, France is over a second ahead of us. So he's broken the DRS. I wasn't able to keep up with him. However, I have been able to close in on Miluma Jonas. So the race pace hasn't been that bad, just not quite good enough to keep up with France. Now the problem is that Jim's behind is on the hard tyres, and now he's going to have a tyre advantage. So now down the strip he's going to be close enough to start putting some pressure on me. We have a small slide into turn 14. We are still able to get a decent exit though, but we will be under attack, and I'm nearly out of battery here, having to recharge. Miluma Jonas and France pit at the same time. I do a cheeky little lift to let James through, and safety car, which means almost absolutely nothing because of the timing of the safety car. Almost no one is going to gain an advantage. Only those who start on the hard tyres will now have to try and make the mediums last 15 laps. But into the pits, oh, Jims has made a mistake. He's gone sideways, and that has led us back through into P3. And so now we are going to box for the hards and go to the end from here.
Up to speed now, let's get some heat into those tyres.
Now just take a look at the track map. Do you see that blue dot? Yes, that is the Williams of Skull, and he was nearly lapped when the safety car was called out. So now he's going to have to unlap himself behind the safety car, which is going to delay the safety car pulling in, and indeed it does. Only at the end of lap 14 are we able to go racing, and even then Skull still hasn't been able to catch up with us. Now I would argue that this is mainly due to the safety car being way too fast on the straights, but that's a discussion for another day. But going back to the here and now, Miluma Jonas is about to lead us underway again, and there he goes. Before the final turn, we are now back to green flag racing.
Green flag.
Okay, so decent restart for us, but Jones behind is looking very aggressive on those mediums. And in fact, he goes for a lunge down into turn 5, but ends up locking up his rears, which causes him to go for a spin. At first I wondered if I was responsible for that in any way, but checking the replay I see there's no contact between us, so therefore I don't think so.
Tyre condition still looking good.
Now, going towards the Las Vegas strip on lap 17, instead of Jims challenge me from behind, I now have Skylar Sims, who's also on the medium tyres. Now, thankfully, I do get a really good exit out of turn 12, which is going to help me tremendously on the extremely long run down to turn 14. So we were able to hold off the charge from Skylar Sims, but as we round this next turn of turn 5, the safety car is called out again, this time for Lamwell and the Haas, who ended up having a bit of a snap and hit the wall, and apparently the impact was hard enough for the game to call out the safety car. So at this point of the race I was having a bit of a dilemma with the race strategy. Do I pit again or do I stay out? I only had one extra set of hard tyres and no extra sets of medium tyres, although I would have dearly loved to have an extra set of medium tyres. And the reason for that is that I chose the harder tire allocation because the game only showed hard tires available in that preset. What I did not know is that the game was hiding the set of hard tires that was naturally available for the race. If I'd given more thought to it, I might have figured it out on my own, but it was really annoying. I didn't want to choose the medium tire preset and suddenly have the game literally give me no hard tires. But either way, we all stayed out at the end, didn't matter, and now we're getting ready for the race restart.
Okay, clear. No tyre concerns at the moment, just focus on the driving. Safety car, no overtaking, reduce your pace. Keep your delta number positive as we form up.
And now we have a third safety car called out. It just didn't feel like we were getting any green flag running towards the end of this race. And at the end of that lap, we are going to have yet another safety car restart because there's not enough laps left for the safety car to stay out any longer.
Green flag.
And there we go, that's my opportunity. Mili Jonas has damaged his front wing left end plate after having contact with the wall. So this is going to definitely hurt him and slow him down enough to allow me to attempt an overtake. However, I don't want to push too hard too soon. I want to make sure I have enough battery to be able to pull away from him. Even though he's damaged his front wing, there's no guarantee he'll be that much slower than me. After all, I'd already raced against multiple people with damage to their front wing, and it didn't seem to affect them that much here around Vegas. But still, I'm going to try an overtake on the strip, but going into turn 12, we're going to lock the rears and almost have a spin. Just about catch it, and we still have to get a good enough exit to keep us safe from Skylar Sims behind.
DRS has been enabled. DRS is now enabled.
And there we go, that's P2 secured for us. So overall, strategy didn't play too big of a part in this particular race. I think further back in the field, there were definitely more interesting strategies being played out. And here are the results. So definitely far fewer track limit penalties this week compared to last week, but there were certainly quite a few retirements and other drivers, some of them who had retired that had penalties. But overall, I think it was a good race. We obviously had a good sprint race, climbed up from P7 all the way to P4, and then in the main race from P4 up to P2. So while the safety cars were definitely a bit frustrating, I think the race pace and the actual race results were all very good. So that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will catch you next time. Goodbye.